Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Merrick Calloway's boots dragged across the driveway, each step heavier than the last. 12 hours at the plant had worn him down to the bone. His calloused hands, stained with machine oil that never quite washed away, fumbled with the house key. Inside, the television blared. Laughter erupted his brother's unmistakable chortle bouncing off the walls of the home Merrick had spent 7 years paying for. "Hey, look who finally made it," Bo called out, sprawled across the couch, beer in hand. 3 empty bottles clustered on the coffee table. "Man, I was beginning to think you lived at that factory." Merrick hung his jacket on the hook. "Where's Tessa?" "Kitchen, making something that smells amazing." Bo grinned, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Unlike you, brother. You smell like a transmission died on you." Merrick ignored the jab and moved toward the kitchen. 5 months his brother had been temporarily staying with them. 5 months of snide comments wrapped in charm. Tessa stood at the counter, chopping vegetables with practiced precision. Her blonde hair hung in a perfect ponytail, not a strand out of place despite the hour. She didn't look up when he entered. "I'm home," Merrick said. She responded, continuing to slice that he moved to the sink, scrubbing at the grease embedded in the creases of his knuckles. "Sorry I'm late. Johnson called in sick, and we're behind on the Peterson order." "You're always behind on something," Tessa said, her voice flat. "Dinner's almost ready, though I wasn't sure you'd make it, so I didn't set a place for you." "I called," Merrick said. "Left a message. My phone died." She swept the vegetables into a pan, the sizzle filling the awkward silence. Merrick dried his hands. "Need help with anything?" "No. Go shower. You stink of metal and sweat." He stood there a moment longer, waiting for something, a look, a smile, any acknowledgement. None came. "Right," he said finally. As he turned to leave, Bo appeared in the doorway. "Hey sis, need an extra hand?" "Unlike some people, mine aren't covered in gunk." Tessa's face transformed, a smile breaking through like sunshine. "Sure. You can toss the salad." The easy laughter between them followed Merrick up the stairs. Freshly showered, Merrick sat at the dinner table, watching Tessa and Bo exchange glances over glasses of wine. His son Owen pushed food around his plate, looking bored. "So I talked to Carl today," Bo said, addressing Tessa as if Merrick wasn't there. "He says the sales position is still open. Commission-based, but the ceiling is way higher than what some people make slaving away at a plant." Tessa nodded enthusiastically. "You should take it. You've got the personality for sales." "Plus," Bo added, lowering his voice conspiratorially, but ensuring Merrick could hear, "no more coming home looking like you crawled through an oil spill." Merrick set his fork down. "The plant pays the bills." "Barely," Tessa muttered. "What was that?" Merrick asked. She met his eyes for the first time that evening. "I said barely. The Hendersons just put in a pool. The Richardsons are taking their kids to Europe this summer. Meanwhile, we're budgeting for a weekend at the coast." "We're doing fine," Merrick said. "Fine isn't enough anymore." Tessa pushed her plate away. "We've been fine for years." "I'm tired of fine." Bo cleared his throat. "Maybe I should take Owen to get ice cream? Let you two talk." "No need," Tessa said, standing abruptly. "I'm going to bed. Early showing tomorrow." Merrick watched her leave, then turned to his son. "How was school today, buddy?" Owen shrugged. "Okay. Just okay. Nothing exciting happened." "Ms. Peterson said my drawing was good." Owen offered a small smile. Bo laughed. "Kid's got talent. Must get it from his mom's side. Callaways aren't known for their artistic abilities." He winked at Owen. "Your dad can barely draw a straight line with a ruler." Owen giggled, and something in Merrick's chest tightened. After putting Owen to bed, Merrick found Tessa in their bedroom, already under the covers, scrolling through her phone. He sat on the edge of the bed. "Want to talk about what's bothering you?" he asked. "Nothing's bothering me," she replied without looking up. "Something's been off for months, Tessa." She set her phone down with a sigh. "You really want to know?" Merrick nodded. "I'm bored, Merrick. I'm bored of this house, this town, this life. I'm bored of clipping coupons and saying no to vacations. I'm bored of watching you come home exhausted every night with nothing to show for it. I provide for us. You survive for us. There's a difference." She turned away from him. I married you because I thought you had ambition. But you're content being a cog in someone else's machine. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, she snapped. You think I enjoy showing the same 3-bedroom ranches to people who can actually afford them while we're stuck in the starter home? You think I like watching other women update their kitchens while I'm still cooking on appliances from the last decade? Merrick stood, anger rising. I work my ass off. And what do you have to show for it? Tessa sat up now, her face flushed. Your brother shows more drive in his pinky finger than you do in your entire body. Bo, are you serious? He's been unemployed for 5 months. At least he has plans, goals, dreams bigger than the next paycheck. She lay back down, pulling the covers tight. Don't come back until you're worth something. The words hung in the air like smoke, choking him. Merrick stood frozen, staring at his wife's back, searching for a response, and finding none, he grabbed his pillow and left. The couch in his own home felt foreign beneath Merrick's back. 2 weeks of sleeping there had done little to ease the tension. Tessa spoke to him only when necessary, and Bo continued his campaign of subtle digs whenever Merrick was within earshot. Saturday morning brought momentary peace. Tessa had left early for an open house. Bo was still asleep, likely nursing a hangover from whatever bar he'd closed down the night before. Merrick sipped coffee at the kitchen table when Owen wandered in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Morning, buddy, Merrick said softly. Owen climbed onto a chair. Can we have pancakes? Absolutely. Merrick rose, gathering ingredients. It felt good to have a simple request he could fulfill that as they ate. Merrick studied his son's face. Owen had Tessa's nose, her chin. Her eyes, too, that same hazel with flecks of gold. But looking for himself in the boy's features, Merrick found nothing that it wasn't the first time he'd had the thought. But today, with the weight of Tessa's coldness pressing on him, the observation stuck like a burr. What are you looking at, Dad? Owen asked, mouthful of pancake. Merrick smiled. Just you, bud. You've got syrup all over your face. After breakfast, they built a fort in the living room, cushions and blankets, creating a castle fit for a 5-year-old king. Inside their fabric fortress, Merrick watched Owen color, the boy's tongue sticking out in concentration. He's got the Richards artistic touch. Mrs. Garvey had commented at the school art show last month. The neighbor had meant it as a compliment, but now the words repeated in Merrick's mind. The Richards had been Tessa's employers when she first started in real estate. A memory surfaced. Tessa, coming home late from office parties, smelling of expensive cologne. Her sudden interest in overtime when Jason Richards was managing the office. Dad, look. Owen held up a drawing, stick figures of their family. That's you and Mom, and Uncle Bo and me. Merrick took the paper, noting how the stick figure labeled Dad stood apart from the others, who were clustered together holding hands. The front door opened, and Bo shuffled in, looking rumpled but still somehow handsome. His eyes widened at the fort. Whoa, Command Center, he exclaimed, immediately dropping to his knees to peek inside. Hey, little man. Owen beamed. Uncle Bo, come see my drawings. Bo crawled in, the fort barely accommodating his frame. He examined Owen's artwork with exaggerated enthusiasm. This is gallery-worthy stuff. You're a natural, just like... He caught himself, glancing at Merrick. Just like your mom. That's what Mrs. Garvey said, Owen replied. She said I have the Richards touch. Something in Bo's expression shifted, a flicker of discomfort quickly masked with a smile. Well, Mrs. Garvey talks too much. Hey, want to see a cool trick with those markers? Merrick backed out of the fort, his mind churning. Later, as Bo entertained Owen in the backyard, he found himself in the bathroom, staring at his reflection. Dark hair, blue eyes, square jaw. Owen had none of these features that on impulse, he opened the medicine cabinet. Among the bottles and tubes, he found a couple of Owen's baby teeth, saved by Tessa after they'd fallen out. He stared at them a long moment before pocketing one. The DNA testing kit arrived in a plain brown package 3 days later. Merrick kept it hidden in his truck until he could swab his own cheek in private. The baby tooth, wrapped in tissue, went into a separate envelope. AT work. He buried himself in projects, volunteering for overtime, anything to avoid going home to the growing coldness. Silas Drexler, A fellow welder with hard eyes and a military straight posture noticed. "You're going to burn yourself out," Silas commented during a break. The older man's face was mapped with scars from his time overseas. "Or lose a finger." Merrick shrugged. "Home's not exactly welcoming these days. Wife troubles. Wife, brother, life, take your pick." Silas nodded, understanding in his silence. "My first wife left me while I was deployed. Took everything but my tools and my dog." He sipped his coffee. "Sometimes rock bottom has a foundation you can build on." The word stuck with Merrick, though he wasn't sure why. That evening, he spotted Tessa and Bo in the kitchen, their heads close together. When they noticed him, they sprang apart like guilty teenagers. "Just helping with dinner," Bo said too quickly. "Since when do you cook?" Merrick asked. "There's a lot you don't know about your brother," Tessa replied, her voice cool. Later, putting Owen to bed, Merrick noticed a photo on the nightstand, Tessa holding a newborn Owen, with Bo standing proudly beside them. Merrick remembered taking that photo. He'd been behind the camera, as he so often was in family moments. "Uncle Bo is funny," Owen said sleepily. "Is he?" Merrick tucked the blanket around his son's shoulders. "Yeah, he makes Mom laugh a lot when you're at work." A lead weight settled in Merrick's stomach. "Does he?" Owen nodded, eyes drooping. "He says he's my best friend. But you're my best friend too, Dad." Merrick kissed his forehead. "Get some sleep, buddy." In the hallway, he heard Tessa's voice from the bedroom, low and urgent. "You need to be more careful," she was saying. That Bo's response was too quiet to make out, but their laughter afterward cut through Merrick like a blade. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. "Your results are ready." Merrick sat in his truck in the plant parking lot, rain drumming on the roof as he opened the message on his phone. His heart pounded as he clicked the link. The text swam before his eyes, but one phrase stood out in stark clarity: "No biological relation found." His hands began to shake. He read it again, then a third time. The conclusion remained unchanged. Owen was not his son. Merrick pressed his forehead against the steering wheel, a strange numbness spreading through him. Some part of him had known, had been preparing for this moment. Yet the confirmation still hit like a physical blow. He called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Instead of going home, he drove aimlessly, the city blurring beyond his windshield. Eventually, he found himself at a small park, deserted in the rain. He sat on a bench, letting the cold drops soak through his jacket, and try to make sense of his life. 0.5 years of fatherhood a lie. His marriage a sham. But who? Who had Tessa been with? Jason Richards seemed the obvious answer, but something didn't fit. The timing was wrong. Richards had moved his agency to Seattle when Owen was already on the way, which left. The thought crystallized slowly, then all at once. Bo, his own brother. The way he looked at Tessa. How comfortable Owen was with him. The guilty jumps when Merrick entered rooms. His phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Where are you? Your work called." He didn't reply. Another buzz. "Are you coming home tonight?" The question struck him as absurd. Home? What home? Instead of answering, he drove to a motel on the edge of town. The room was clean but spartan: a bed, a desk, a TV he wouldn't turn on. He sat in the single chair, thinking. Confrontation would give them the upper hand. They would have excuses ready, tears prepared, accusations to counter his own. They would paint him as the villain, the inadequate husband, the absent father, and they deserved something more, calculating. The next morning, Merrick returned home as if nothing had changed. He kissed Tessa's cheek when she wasn't expecting it. He tousled Owen's hair. He even joked with Bo about a game on TV. "You feeling okay?" Tessa asked suspiciously. "Never better," Merrick replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just realized some things need to change around here." Over the next week, Merrick watched. He noticed how Bo found excuses to touch Tessa when they thought he wasn't looking. He saw their whispered conversations end abruptly when he entered rooms. He observed the matching expressions of relief when he announced he'd be working late. One night, he pretended to leave but circled back, parking down the street. Through the living room window, he saw them on the couch, Tessa in Bo's lap, his hands in her hair. Owen was nowhere in sight, presumably asleep upstairs. Merrick took a photo with his phone, his hand surprisingly steady. Then he drove away, a plan forming in his mind. The next day, he approached Silas during lunch break. "You ever think about starting your own shop?" Merrick asked. Silas looked up from his sandwich. "All the time." "Why?" "I'm thinking of making some changes." "Big ones." "What kind of changes?" Merrick's voice was steady, his eyes cold. "The kind that burn bridges." Silas studied him for a long moment. "You don't strike me as the bridge-burning type. People change when they have to." A slow nod from Silas. "Come on my place tonight. We'll talk." 3 days later, Merrick came home with papers in hand. Tessa and Bo were in the kitchen, their conversation stopping abruptly when he entered. "What's that?" Tessa asked, nodding at the folder. "Leave of absence," Merrick said. "Medical." Her eyebrows rose. "Medical? What's wrong?" "Doctor says I'm on the edge of a breakdown. Need time off." Bo stepped forward, concern etched on his handsome face. "That's rough, brother. Anything we can do?" The fake sympathy made Merrick's stomach turn, but he kept his expression neutral. "I need space. Going to stay with a buddy for a while, clear my head." "You can't just leave," Tessa protested, though Merrick caught the calculation in her eyes. "What about bills? What about Owen? Work's giving me partial pay. It'll cover the mortgage." As for Owen, Merrick paused, the name bitter in his mouth. "I think a little distance would be good for everyone right now." He packed a bag while Tessa watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "So that's it? You're walking out on your family?" Merrick zipped the bag closed. "I'm not walking out. I'm stepping back before I say or do something we'll all regret." As he headed for the door, Owen came running from his room. "Dad, where are you going?" Merrick knelt, facing the boy who wasn't his son. The anger he expected to feel didn't come, just a hollow ache. "Dad needs to go away for a little bit, buddy. To get better." "Are you sick?" Owen's eyes widened. "Not the kind of sick you can see." Merrick hesitated, then hugged him. "Be good for your mom, okay?" At the door, Bo stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. "Hey, take care of yourself, man. We'll hold down the fort." The sincerity in his voice was almost convincing. Merrick looked his brother in the eye. "I'm sure you will." As he drove away, Merrick glanced in the rearview mirror. Tessa and Bo stood in the doorway, Owen between them. They looked like a family. His family was already gone. It had never really existed that he wouldn't forgive. He wouldn't forget, and he would never let them win. The warehouse smelled of metal and possibility. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light streaming through high windows, illuminating the empty space that would become iron signal fabrication. Merrick's footsteps echoed as he walked the concrete floor, measuring distances in his mind. "It's a dump," Silas observed, his voice bouncing off the bare walls. "It's a canvas," Merrick corrected. "We can put the welding stations along that wall, fabrication tables down the center, office space in the corner." Silas raised an eyebrow. "You sound like a man who's been planning this for a while." 6 months, Merrick admitted. "Been researching while working nights at the shipping warehouse." 2 jobs, Silas whistled. "No wonder you look like hell. Sleep is for people with nothing to prove." Silas grunted, moving to examine the electrical panel. "Your wife know about this place?" "Ex-wife, soon enough." Merrick's voice was flat. "And no, as far as Tessa knows, I'm still having my breakdown." "That's cold. So is screwing your husband's brother." The words came out before Merrick could stop them. Silas turned, surprise briefly crossing his scarred face before settling into understanding. Now the bridge burning makes sense." Merrick said nothing, focusing instead on the space before him. In his mind, he could already see what it would become, not just a shop, but a fortress, a foundation, as Silas had once put it. "You sure about this partnership?" Silas asked. "I'm not exactly the warm and fuzzy type." "I don't need warm and fuzzy. I need someone who knows steel and keeps their word." Silas nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He extended a hand. "To new beginnings, then." Merrick shook it, feeling the first solid thing in months. Days blurred into nights as they transformed the warehouse. Merrick moved into the small office space, setting up a cot in the corner. The arrangement saved money and kept him away from the apartment he'd rented for show, the one Tessa occasionally drove by, checking for his truck. Their first job came through Silas's military connections custom railings for a veterans center being renovated downtown. The work was precise, demanding, exactly what Merrick needed to focus his mind and exhaust his body. Between jobs, he built their reputation creating a website, networking with contractors, underbidding competitors just enough to get a foot in the door. Every penny of profit went back into the business or into carefully chosen investments. Tessa called occasionally, her voice oscillating between concern and irritation. "Owen asks about you," she said during one such call, for months into Merrick's absence. "How is he?" Merrick asked, allowing himself that small weakness. Confused, his father vanished without explanation. The bar hit its mark, but Merrick kept his voice even. "I told him I needed to get better. And have you?" "Gotten better. Getting there." A pause. The mortgage company called. They said the payment was late. "It's handled," Merrick replied. In truth, he'd paid it that morning, deliberately waiting until the last possible day. "Merrick, I don't think I can do this much longer. Either come home or what, Tessa?" She sighed. "Or we need to make this separation official, if that's what you want." Another pause, longer this time. "Is that what you want?" The question held to trap the pretense that his desires mattered to her. Merrick didn't bite. "I want what's best for everyone," he said, the platitude falling easily from his lips. "That's not an answer. It's all I have right now." After hanging up, Merrick returned to the shop floor where Silas was teaching their first employee, a quiet, serious woman named Vex, how to use the plasma cutter. Sparks flew, bright against the darkening windows. "Everything okay?" Silas asked when Merrick approached. "Will be," Merrick replied, picking up his welding helmet. "Let's finish this section tonight." The divorce papers arrived 6 months to the day after Merrick had walked out. The messenger found him at Iron Signal, now a functioning operation with 5 employees and contracts with 2 tech firms for custom components. Merrick signed without reading the details. Tessa wanted it fast and clean, no doubt, to clear the way for whatever she and Bo were planning next. That evening, as rain hammered the warehouse roof, the door opened to admit a slim woman with sharp features and sharper eyes. "You Merrick Calloway?" she asked, shaking water from her umbrella. "Depends who's asking," he replied, setting aside the blueprint he'd been marking. "Raina Elms. I live 4 doors down from your old place." She extended a hand. "We met at a neighborhood barbecue once. You probably don't remember." He didn't, but shook her hand anyway. "What brings you here, Ms. Elms?" "I heard you open this place. I'm a lawyer, mainly defense, and I occasionally need expert witnesses for cases involving structural failures, mechanical disputes, that sort of thing." Merrick gestured to a chair. "And you thought of me? I remembered you worked in fabrication. Then I saw your new shop mentioned in a business journal." She sat, crossing long legs. "But that's not the only reason I'm here." "Oh." Raina's expression hardened slightly. "I never liked your wife. Or your brother. Even before I saw them together, when everyone thought you were at work." A cold feeling spread through Merrick's chest. "How long?" "Years, for what I could tell. Before the boy was born, certainly." Merrick absorbed this, his suspicions confirmed by an impartial witness. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I believe in consequences," Raina said simply. "And because I've seen you around, working yourself to exhaustion, building something new while they play house with your name and your money." "Former name," Merrick corrected. "Papers came today. Congratulations. Or condolences, whichever you prefer." For the first time in months, Merrick felt the ghost of a smile. "Both, I think." Raina stood, handing him a business card. "Think about the expert witness work. And if you ever need legal advice of a more personal nature, my door is always open. Professional courtesy." Merrick studied the card. "Why would you help me?" She paused at the door, rain waiting beyond. "Let's just say I understand what it's like to be underestimated by people who should have known better." After she left, Merrick added her card to his wallet. Right behind the small reminder, he carried everywhere a photo of the DNA test results, folded and worn at the edges. The courthouse steps were slick with autumn rain. Merrick stood under the overhang, watching Tessa emerge with her lawyer. She dyed her hair darker, wore clothes more expensive than their budget had ever allowed. She spotted him and hesitated before approaching. "It's done," she said, stopping a few feet away. "Judge signed off." Merrick nodded. "Congratulations. Don't be bitter, Merrick. This is what you wanted. You checked out months ago. He studied her face, still beautiful, still able to twist his gut into knots, though not for the reasons she might think. "How's Bo?" he asked mildly. Her expression flickered. "Fine. Worried about you, actually. I'm sure." Merrick glanced at his watch. "I should get back to the shop. Goodbye, Tessa." She grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. "That's it? 10 years together, and all I get is goodbye? What did you expect? I don't know. Something. Anything." Her eyes searched his. "Owen misses you." The name sent a flare of anger through him. "Does he? He's still your son, Merrick. Whatever happened between us is over." He finished for her. "We're done, Tessa. All of us." He walked away, ignoring her calls. In his truck, he took a deep breath, hands tight on the steering wheel. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Raina Elms. It's Merrick Calloway. About that legal advice. I'm ready to talk." Time accelerated. 1 year became 2, then 3. Iron Signal grew from a small fabrication shop to a respected name in industrial manufacturing. Merrick and Silas expanded into a second warehouse, then a third. They hired more welders, machinists, designers. Merrick rarely thought of Tessa or Bo, and when he did, it was with a detached sort of calculation. Through carefully cultivated business connections, he occasionally heard updates. Both had started and failed at 3 different jobs. Tessa was still selling real estate, though her fortune seemed to rise and fall with the market. Owen remained a closed chapter, a name Merrick avoided even in his thoughts. Instead, he focused on building. During the day, he built his business. At night, he built his revenge, piece by careful piece. Raina became a regular presence, first as legal counsel, then as a friend, and eventually as something more complicated. She understood his coldness, his focus, in ways others couldn't. "You're planning something," she observed one evening over drinks in his office. Outside, the fabrication floor was silent, the workers gone home. Merrick raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "The investments, the holding companies, the property acquisitions." She sipped her whiskey. "I'm a defense attorney, Merrick. I recognize preparation when I see it. Is it illegal? Not that I can tell. Just methodical." He smiled slightly. "I like things organized. This is more than organization. This is chess." Merrick didn't deny it. "If it were hypothetically, would you want to know the end game?" Raina considered him over the rim of her glass. "I think I already do. You're buying properties in your old neighborhood, including one that, if I'm not mistaken, has a mortgage originally taken out by Tessa Calloway." His expression remained neutral. "Public records are fascinating." "Indeed." She set her glass down. "Just be careful. Revenge serves cold, but burns the hand that serves it." "Speaking from experience?" "Perhaps." Her smile was sharp, though mine wasn't nearly as elaborate as what you're planning. Later that night, alone in his apartment, a proper one now, with views of the river and furniture chosen for comfort rather than necessity, Merrick reviewed his progress. Iron Signal now had contracts with 2 major tech firms and the state transportation department. His personal investment portfolio had quadrupled. And 3 months ago, through a shell company managed by a discreet banking contact, he had purchased the mortgage on the house he once shared with Tessa. She didn't know, of course. The bank had simply informed her that her loan had been sold, as loans often were. Her payments now went to a company that existed primarily on paper. With Merrick's name nowhere to be found, IT wasn't enough, not by half. But it was a start. His phone buzzed a text from Raina. "Dinner tomorrow?" He typed back, "Can't. Meeting with state contract office." Her reply came quickly. "Their loss. My gain. Next week." Something warm stirred in Merrick's chest, an unfamiliar feeling he wasn't quite ready to name. "Yes." The next morning, a courier delivered a thick envelope to Iron Signal's front office. Inside, Merrick found photos of a house under construction, modern, sleek, expensive. A note in Bo's handwriting accompanied them. "Thought you'd want to see the new place." Tessa picked everything out herself. "You always did hold her back." B. Attached was an invitation to a housewarming party. Merrick studied the images, the soaring ceilings, the granite countertops, the backyard pool. All the things Tessa had wanted and he couldn't provide. All the things she was now getting with his brother. He slid the photos into his desk drawer, next to the DNA test results. Then he called his banking contact. "I need information on a construction loan for a property in Lake Grove," he said without preamble. Borrower's name is Bo Calloway. 2 hours later, he had his answer. Bo had leveraged everything for the new house, including taking out multiple credit cards to cover down payments and furnishings. The house, like everything else in Bo's life, was built on air. Merrick added the information to his growing file. Then he went back to work, the edge of a plan becoming clearer with each passing day. The cocktail party hummed with Portland's up-and-coming business crowd. Merrick, dressed in a tailored suit that bore no resemblance to his usual workshop attire, navigated the room with practiced ease. 5 years had changed him not just in appearance, but in presence. Merrick Calloway. A voice boomed from his left. Martin Chun, CEO of Northwest Technologies, approached with a smile. "The man who salvaged our prototype when nobody else could figure out." Merrick shook his hand. "Just doing what we do best at Iron Signal. Modest as ever. But I heard the new state contract for all the transit system upgrades? That's impressive. We're expanding to meet demand. Opening a facility in Eugene next month." Chun whistled. "From small shop to regional player in 5 years. You should give talks on entrepreneurship." "I prefer letting the work speak for itself," Merrick said. "Well, it's speaking volumes. In fact," Chun broke off, looking over Merrick's shoulder. "Isn't that your ex-wife?" Merrick turned slowly. Across the room, Tessa stood with a drink in hand, looking out of place among the business crowd. Her dress was expensive but trying too hard. She hadn't seen him yet. "Excuse me," Merrick said to Chun, moving away before Tessa could spot him. From a distance, he observed her working the room, handing out business cards, laughing too loudly at jokes. A realtor fishing for high-end clients, out of her depth, thought he was about to leave when he felt a hand on his arm. "Running away?" Raina asked, elegant in a simple black dress. "Not your style." Merrick nodded toward Tessa. "Not in the mood for a scene." "Too late." Raina nodded subtly. "She's seen us." Sure enough, Tessa was making her way through the crowd, her expression fixed in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Merrick," she said when she reached them. "I thought that was you. It's been a while." "Tessa." He nodded politely. "You remember Raina Elms?" Tessa's smile faltered slightly. "Of course. The lawyer from down the street." "Defense attorney," Raina corrected smoothly. "With Clark and Watkins now." "How nice." Tessa turned back to Merrick. "You look well. I barely recognized you." 5 years changes people," he replied. "Indeed." Her eyes darted between him and Raina. "Are you too?" "Colleagues," Raina supplied. "Friends. Occasionally more." Tessa's smile tightened. "How modern." Merrick checked his watch. "If you'll excuse us, we have a dinner reservation." "Of course." Tessa touched his arm, her fingers lingering. "But we should catch up sometime. For Owen's sake, if nothing else." The name hung between them, a weapon she still thought held power. Merrick kept his expression neutral. "How is he?" he asked, more out of obligation than interest. "Struggling, honestly. School is difficult for him. And he asks about you." "Does he?" Merrick's voice held no emotion. "He's 10, Merrick. He needs a father figure. I'm sure Bo fills that role adequately." Tessa's face flushed. "Bo's been going through some things. The house has been a strain. I heard about the new place. Quite the upgrade. We had to downsize, actually," Tessa admitted. "The market turned, and with Bo between jobs, a shame." Merrick glanced at Raina. "That reservation, right?" Raina smiled at Tessa, all teeth. "Lovely catching up." As they walked away, Raina whispered, "Did you know she'd be here?" "No," Merrick said, "but I'm not surprised. She's hunting clients, and this event is full of potential buyers. She seems desperate." "She is." Merrick held the door for Raina. "Bo's credit is maxed out. The downsized house still has 2 mortgages on it, and Owen's private school tuition is 3 months behind." Raina raised an eyebrow. "You've been keeping tabs. Knowledge is leverage." In the car, as they drove toward the restaurant, Raina studied him. "You didn't react when she mentioned the boy." Merrick kept his eyes on the road. "Why would I? Most men would feel something. Anger, loss, something. Owen was never mine," he said, the words coming easier with each passing year. The DNA test proved that. You never told Tessa about the test, did you? No. That card stays in my hand until I need it. Raina was quiet for a moment. What are you waiting for, Merrick? You've rebuilt your life. You're successful, respected. Why not just walk away completely? The question lingered as they parked and made their way into the restaurant. It wasn't until they were seated, drinks ordered, that Merrick finally answered. They took 5 years from me, he said, his voice low. 5 years of believing in a family that never existed. 5 years of working myself to exhaustion for a wife who despised me and a child who wasn't mine. He looked Raina in the eye. I want those years back. With interest. The call came 3 weeks later. Merrick was reviewing blueprints when his assistant buzzed him. There's a Bo Calloway on line 1, she said, the name clearly unfamiliar to her. Says it's urgent. Merrick stared at the phone for a long moment before picking up. This is Merrick. Brother. Bo's voice had lost some of its easy charm. Thanks for taking my call. I wasn't sure you would. What do you want, Bo? A nervous laugh. Right to business. That's always been your way. A pause. I need help, Merrick. Financial help. Why would I help you? Because we're family, regardless of everything that's happened. Merrick let the silence stretch uncomfortably. Look, Bo continued, his voice taking on a desperate edge. I know things between us are complicated, but I'm in real trouble here. The house is underwater, credit cards are maxed, and Tessa's commission checks barely cover groceries. Sounds like poor planning. It was. I admit it. I screwed up. Another pause. It's affecting Owen. Kids having problems at school. Might get kicked out if we can't make tuition. The mention of Owen still triggered nothing in Merrick. Why should I care? Because he's your son, for God's sake. Is he? The question hung in the air, but Bo's silence confirmed what Merrick already knew. How long? Merrick asked, his voice level. What are you talking about? How long were you sleeping with my wife before I left? A sharp intake of breath. Merrick, man, it wasn't like that. How? Long. Silence, then. It started before the wedding. Just once we were drunk. Then nothing for years, I swear. But when Owen was about 2, spare me the details. Merrick's voice was ice. But thank you for confirming what I already knew. What do you mean? DNA doesn't lie, brother. Another long silence. You knew? All this time. I've known Owen wasn't mine since before I walked out. Jesus, Merrick. Why didn't you say anything? And give you the upper hand? Let you paint me as the villain who abandoned his family. Merrick's laugh held no humor. I don't think so. So all this your breakdown, disappearing, the divorce, it was all calculated. Every step. Bo's voice turned angry. You cold bastard. You let Owen believe his father abandoned him for 5 years. That boy has never been without his father, Merrick replied calmly. You've been there all along, haven't you? It's not the same, and you know it. Not my problem. Now, was there anything else? I have a business to run. Merrick, please. I'm begging you. If not for me, then for Owen. For Tessa. At that, Merrick finally lost his composure. For Tessa? The woman who told me not to come back until I was worth something? Who cheated with my brother and passed off his child as mine? His voice hardened. You made your choices, Bo. Both of you. Now live with them. He hung up, hand steady despite the storm inside him. Then he called Raina. It's time, he said when she answered. They're desperate. They came to me. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The credit report was damning 6 credit cards, opened in Merrick's name, all maxed out. Car loans, personal loans, even a timeshare in Mexico. All traced back to Bo, using the social security number and birth date of the brother he'd betrayed. Identity theft is a felony, Raina said, reviewing the documents spread across Merrick's dining table. 5 to 10 years, potentially. These were opened after your divorce, so Tessa might avoid legal consequences, but Bo. She shook her head. He's looking at serious time. Merrick sipped his coffee, oddly calm. He was always reckless. Never thought he'd get caught. How did you find this? Credit alert. I set it up years ago after the divorce standard practice, but I only checked it recently, after his call. Raina gathered the papers into a neat stack. What's your play here? Civil suit? Criminal charges? Both, Merrick said, and more. Her eyebrow rose. The mortgage. He nodded. I've had the bank hold off on formal foreclosure notices, but it's been in default for 3 months. You could have foreclosed at any time. Timing matters, Merrick said. I wanted them desperate first. Raina leaned back, studying him. You're enjoying this. Not enjoying. Completing. He met her gaze steadily. They thought I was weak. That I'd break. That I'd crawl back eventually, begging for scraps of the life they stole from me. And instead, I rebuilt. Better. Stronger. He gestured around them at the penthouse apartment with its view of the city, at the life he'd constructed from the ashes. They're the ones who'll beg now. Raina was silent for a moment. What about the boy? Owen. Merrick shrugged. He's not my concern. Never was. He thinks you're his father. A lie told by his mother and his real father. Their problem to solve. Raina nodded slowly. File the charges tomorrow. Yes. And arrange a meeting with both of them. Here. Both arrived alone, looking older and far less polished than the charming playboy of 5 years ago. His designer clothes had been replaced by off-the-rack attire that still managed to look rumpled. The easy confidence was gone, replaced by a hunted look. Nice place, he said, glancing around Merrick's apartment. Guess the business is doing well. Iron Signal has 5 locations now, Merrick replied, not offering a drink or a seat. State contracts, tech industry partnerships, custom work for architectural firms. Good for you. Bo finally sat uninvited. Where's Tessa? I thought she was coming too. She's next. I wanted to speak with you alone first. Bo's expression turned wary. About what? Merrick withdrew a folder from his desk. About these. He slid the credit reports across the table. Bo glanced at them, then paled. I can explain, he began. Please do. Explain how you stole my identity to open multiple credit accounts. Explain how you racked up over $150,000 in fraudulent debt. Explain how that's not a felony worthy of significant prison time. Bo ran a hand through his thinning hair. It was temporary. I was going to pay it all back. With what money? You haven't held a job for more than 3 months in 5 years. I've had bad luck, that's all. The market turned. Opportunities dried up. While I, somehow, managed to build a multi-million-dollar business in the same economic climate. Merrick's voice dripped with contempt. Bad luck isn't your problem, Bo. You are. Bo's face flushed. What do you want from me? Blood. No. Merrick sat across from him. I want you to understand what happens next. I've filed charges for identity theft and fraud. The police will be looking for you by the end of the day. You can't do this. I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother the moment you slept with my wife. Bo's shoulders slumped. It was a mistake. We both knew it was wrong. And yet you continued. For years. Long enough to father a child and pass him off as mine. Owen. Bo looked up, desperation in his eyes. He doesn't know about any of it. He still thinks you're his dad. Another lie you'll have to answer for. Please, Merrick. If you do this, it destroys everything. Not just me, but Tessa, Owen. Actions have consequences. Merrick stood. You made your choices. Now face them like a man for once in your life. The doorbell rang. Tessa, arriving on schedule. Merrick opened the door to find her standing there, tension visible in every line of her body. What's this about, Merrick? She demanded, pushing past him. She stopped when she saw Bo, his face ashen. What's going on? Sit down, Tessa, Merrick said, closing the door. We have a lot to discuss. She remained standing. I don't have time for games. Owen is waiting in the car. You brought him? Merrick's voice sharpened. He wanted to see you. It's been 5 years, Merrick. 5 years of him wondering why his father abandoned him. Tessa, Bo said quietly. He knows. Her eyes darted between them. Knows what? About Owen, Bo said. About us. Tessa's face went blank, then crumpled slightly before she composed herself. I don't know what you're talking about. Merrick laughed without humor. Still lying, even now? I've known for years, Tessa. I did a DNA test before I left. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. You knew? All this time. Every day since I walked out that door. She sank into a chair. Why didn't you say anything? Why let Owen believe you were his father if you knew you weren't? I didn't tell him anything. That was your lie to maintain, not mine. So this meeting, the charges against Bo, it's all revenge? For something that happened years ago. No, Tessa. The charges are because your lover committed multiple felonies using my identity. That's justice, not revenge. She turned to Bo. What is he talking about? Bo couldn't meet her eyes. I needed money for the house, for your lifestyle. I used his information to open some accounts. Some accounts? Merrick interjected. 6 credit cards, 3 personal loans, a car loan, and a timeshare. All maxed out. All in default. Tessa stared at Bo in horror. You idiot. You absolute idiot. I was trying to give you what you wanted. Bo shouted. The house, the car, the vacations. Everything Merrick couldn't provide. I never asked you to commit crimes. No, just adultery, Merrick said calmly. Just passing off another man's child as mine. Just years of lies and manipulation. Tessa whirled on him. Is that what this is about? You built all this, she gestured around the apartment, just to destroy us. I built all this because you told me not to come back until I was worth something. Remember that, Tessa? Your exact words. Her face flushed. That was anger talking. I never meant. You meant every word. And now I'm worth quite a lot. Merrick moved to the window, looking out at the city he'd conquered. Unfortunately for you, I no longer need either of you to validate that worth. So what happens now? She asked, her voice small. Now, Bo goes to jail. You lose the house, yes. I own your mortgage half for years. And Owen learns the truth about his parentage. You can't do this, Tessa said, standing. I won't let you. Something shifted in Merrick's expression, a coldness that hadn't been there before. You don't have a choice. I came here thinking there might be a way forward, she said, moving closer. A way to make peace for Owen's sake. Owen is not my concern. He's still your son in every way that matters. No, Tessa, he's not. He never was. Merrick's voice was ice. And I buried the man who wanted you years ago. She recoiled as if slapped. Then, in a desperate move, she pressed herself against him, hands sliding up his chest. Merrick, please. We can work something out. For old time's sake. He stepped back, disgust playing on his face. Your seduction routine might work on men with no self-respect. I'm not one of them anymore. Tears welled in her eyes, real ones, for the first time. What do you want from us? Nothing. That's the point, Tessa. I want nothing from either of you. The buzzer sounded, building security, announcing the arrival of the police. Merrick pressed the intercom. Send them up. Wait, Bo said, standing. There must be something. Some way to fix this. There isn't. Tessa moved to the door. I need to get Owen. He can't see this. By all means, Merrick replied. Take him home. Enjoy it while you can. Foreclosure proceedings begin tomorrow. As Tessa fled, Bo faced his brother one last time. I'm sorry, Merrick. Truly. For everything. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught. The question hung in air as the police knocked on the door. The courtroom hummed with tension as Merrick took the stand. 6 months had passed since Bo's arrest, 6 months of legal maneuvering, of depositions and discovery, of watching his carefully laid plans unfold with mechanical precision. Raina stood at the podium, every inch the professional in her tailored suit. Mr. Calloway, please explain to the court when you first became aware of the fraudulent accounts opened in your name. Merrick leaned slightly toward the microphone. Approximately 7 months ago, I received a credit alert notification. When I investigated, I discovered multiple accounts have been opened using my social security number and other personal information. And did you authorize anyone to use your personal information to open these accounts? No, I did not. Did you benefit from any of these accounts in any way? No. I was completely unaware of their existence until the alert. Raina nodded. And how did you determine who had opened these accounts? The billing addresses were all connected to my former brother-in-law, Bo Calloway. Several accounts had his phone number listed as the contact. And security camera footage from 3 different retailers shows him using credit cards in my name. Bo sat at the defense table, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the table before him. His court-appointed attorney looked overwhelmed by the mountain of evidence. No further questions, Your Honor, Raina said, returning to her seat. That Bo's lawyer rose, straightening his rumpled tie. Mr. Calloway, isn't it true that you and the defendant were once close? That he lived in your home for a time? Yes, Merrick responded evenly. And during that time, Did you ever give him permission to use your personal information? Perhaps for a joint venture or household expense? Never. Your Honor, the lawyer pressed. My client contends that there was an informal arrangement between himself and Mr. Calloway, a family understanding about shared resources. Merrick's expression remained neutral. There was no such arrangement. After my divorce, I had no contact with Bo Calloway for nearly 5 years before discovering the fraud. The questions continued, but the outcome was never in doubt. By day's end, Bo had been found guilty on all counts: identity theft, fraud, and financial exploitation. The judge denied bail pending sentencing, citing flight risk. As the courtroom emptied, Merrick found Tessa waiting in the hallway, dark circles under her eyes. Satisfied? She asked, her voice hollow. Justice isn't about satisfaction, he replied. It's about consequences. He's looking at years, Merrick. Years. You should have thought of that before stealing my identity. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. This isn't about the credit cards. This is about me. About Owen. Merrick's gaze hardened. Don't flatter yourself, Tessa. This is about right and wrong. Something neither of you ever understood. And what about tomorrow? The civil suit? Is that about right and wrong too? Yes. You committed fraud by knowingly passing off another man's child as mine. You collected child support under false pretenses. You manipulated legal proceedings with lies. She looked away. Owen asks about you. Stop using him as a weapon. It won't work anymore. He's not a weapon. He's a child. A confused, hurt child who doesn't understand why the only father he's ever known walked away and never looked back. For an instant, something flickered in Merrick's eyes, not quite regret, but recognition of the collateral damage. It passed quickly. You created that situation, not me. You tell him the truth. He deserves at least that much. Tessa's laugh was bitter. The truth? That his real father is going to prison because his mother's ex-husband orchestrated an elaborate revenge? How do I explain that to a 10-year-old? Not my problem, Merrick said, moving past her. See you in court tomorrow. The civil courtroom was smaller, less formal, but no less tense. Raina sat beside Merrick at the plaintiff's table, while Tessa and her attorney, a harried-looking woman with a stack of disorganized files, occupied the defense side. Judge Monroe, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the briefs before her with practiced efficiency. This is an unusual case. Counselors, I don't often see paternity fraud coupled with claims of emotional distress and financial malfeasance. Raina rose. Your Honor, the evidence will show that the defendant knowingly misrepresented paternity for financial gain. DNA testing conclusively proves my client is not the biological father of the minor child in question, despite the defendant's claims during divorce proceedings. Tessa's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client acknowledges the DNA results, but contends that she was unaware of the child's biological parentage at the time. Furthermore, Mr. Calloway acted as the child's father for 5 years, establishing a parent-child relationship that has legal standing regardless of biology. Judge Monroe peered over her glasses. Ms. Elms, your brief indicates you're not seeking custody or visitation modification. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Raina confirmed. My client has no interest in establishing parental rights. In fact, he explicitly rejects any legal responsibility for the minor child, given the proven lack of biological connection and the fraud perpetrated by the defendant. The judge turned to Tessa. Mrs. Calloway, please take the stand. Under oath, Tessa presented a carefully constructed narrative, one of confusion rather than deliberate deception. She claimed uncertainty about Owen's paternity, suggested Merrick's coldness had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere, painted herself as a victim of circumstance rather than an architect of fraud. When Raina's turn for cross-examination came, her approach was surgical. Mrs. Calloway, when did your relationship with Bo Calloway begin? Tessa shifted uncomfortably. I'm not sure what you mean by relationship. Your sexual relationship, Mrs. Calloway. When did it begin? Objection. Tessa's attorney called. Relevance. Goes directly to the question of paternity fraud. Your Honor, Raina countered. The timeline is crucial. Overruled. Answer the question, Mrs. Calloway. Tessa swallowed. There were incidents, before my marriage to Merrick. But nothing serious. Incidents, Raina repeated. And after your marriage? We reconnected when Owen was about 2. Reconnected. Raina's tone made the euphemism sound obscene. And before that? During your pregnancy, perhaps? Or around the time of conception? I don't recall. Raina approached the witness stand. You don't recall who you were sleeping with when your son was conceived? Objection. Badgering the witness. Sustained. Rephrase, counselor. Raina nodded. Mrs. Calloway, phone records entered as Exhibit C show multiple calls between you and Bo Calloway late at night during the period when Owen would have been conceived. How do you explain these? He's family. We talked for hours after my client was asleep, almost every night. Tessa's composure cracked. What do you want me to say? That I cheated? Fine. I cheated. But I didn't know for certain Owen wasn't Merrick's. Yet you never sought paternity testing, despite obvious physical differences between my client and the child. I believed what I wanted to believe. Raina returned to her table, lifting a document. Mrs. Calloway, this email from you to Bo Calloway, dated when Owen was 3 months old, states, and I quote, "He looks more like you every day. Em hasn't noticed yet, but I'm worried he will." How do you explain this if you were uncertain about paternity? The color drained from Tessa's face. Where did you get that? It was submitted in discovery, Mrs. Calloway. Your attorney provided it. Tessa shot a horrified look at her lawyer, who appeared equally surprised. The questioning continued, each revelation more damning than the last. By the time Tessa left the stand, her credibility was in tatters. When Merrick testified, his account was straightforward and unemotional. He described discovering the DNA test results, the calculated decision to leave rather than confront, the years of paying child support for a child he knew wasn't his. And why did you continue payments after learning the truth? Judge Monroe asked. I was advised that stopping payments would trigger legal action, which would force my hand before I was ready, Merrick replied. I chose to wait until I had all the facts before proceeding. Some might call that calculating. I call it prudent, Your Honor. Mr. Calloway, the judge continued, the minor child still believes you are his father. Do you feel no obligation to him whatsoever? Merrick met her gaze steadily. He was never mine. The simple declaration hung in the air, cold and final. In the end, Judge Monroe ruled primarily in Merrick's favor. Tessa was ordered to repay all child support collected after the divorce, plus interest. The paternity fraud claim was upheld, with significant financial penalties. Only the emotional distress claim was reduced, the judge noting that Merrick's calculated approach suggested a level of control inconsistent with severe emotional suffering. Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered, drawn by the unusual nature of the case. Merrick declined comment, but Tessa, desperate and angry, grabbed a microphone. He destroyed my family for revenge, she declared. He knew about Owen for years and said nothing, just plotted and planned while my son thought his father had abandoned him. Raina stepped forward. Mrs. Calloway deliberately misrepresented paternity for financial gain. The court has ruled, and we have no further comment. Later, in Raina's office, Merrick watched the news footage of Tessa's outburst. She's painting you as the villain, Raina observed. Let her try. The facts speak for themselves. What's your next move? Merrick's smile was thin. The foreclosure proceeds as planned. And I have one more card to play. The visiting room at Columbia River Correctional Institution was sparse and institutional. Bo sat across from Merrick, prison jumpsuit replacing his usual carefully chosen attire, the cocky grin replaced by weary resignation. I didn't think you'd come, Bo said. I wanted to see it for myself, Merrick replied. How the mighty have fallen. Bo's laugh was hollow. Always the dramatic one, weren't you? Behind all that stoic engineer exterior. How's prison treating you? About how you'd expect. Bo rubbed his wrist where the handcuffs had left marks. 3 years, Merrick. The judge gave me 3 years. You're lucky. Could have been 7. Is that why you're here? To remind me how lucky I am. Merrick leaned forward. I'm here because I received an interesting call from a lawyer representing Owen. Tessa is trying to force visitation rights for him, claiming it would be detrimental to his well-being to cut ties completely. And And I'm curious why you'd allow that, knowing he's your son, not mine. Bo's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I haven't spoken to any lawyer. No. The petition was filed in your name as the biological father with your power of attorney. That's impossible. I never signed anything like that. Merrick smiled coldly. Forgery is unpleasant when it happens to you, isn't it? Understanding dawned on Bo's face. Tessa forged my signature, just as you forged mine on all those credit applications. Poetic, really. Bo slumped in his chair. What does she think she's doing? Trying to salvage something from the wreckage. She's lost everything else: the house, her reputation, most of her clients. Owen is all she has left. And you came here to what? Gloat. I came to make something perfectly clear. Merrick's voice dropped to a near whisper. You took my name, my blood, and my peace. Now I'm taking everything from you. Bo's face hardened. You've already done that. Not quite everything. You still have a son. What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow, I'm filing a countersuit revealing the DNA test results and your paternity. Not to claim the boy, I want nothing to do with him, but to ensure the record is crystal clear about who his real father is. You can't do that to Owen, Bo protested. He's just a kid. I'm not doing anything to him. I'm establishing the truth. Something you and Tessa should have done years ago. Bo leaned forward desperately. Merrick, please. He doesn't deserve this. Whatever you think of me, of Tessa, Owen is innocent. Collateral damage, Merrick replied. If you didn't want him hurt, you shouldn't have built his life on lies. You self-righteous bastard. Bo's voice rose. You think you're so morally superior? Look at what you've become. All this plotting, this systematic destruction. And for what? To prove you're better than us. I've always been better than you, Bo. The difference is now everyone knows it. Bo shook his head. No, you're worse. Because I may have betrayed you, but at least I loved him. You're punishing a child to satisfy your ego. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm refusing to perpetuate a fraud. A guard approached, signaling the end of visiting hours. Merrick stood, straightening his suit jacket. One last thing, he said. Tessa received the final foreclosure notice today. She has 30 days to vacate. I thought you should know. Bo looked up, defeat etched in every line of his face. Are you happy now, Merrick? Is this everything you hoped for? Merrick considered the question. Happiness wasn't the goal. Justice was. No, Bo replied softly. This passed justice miles ago. This is vengeance, pure and simple. Call what you want. The result is the same. As Merrick turned to leave, Bo called after him. It won't fill the hole, brother. Trust me on that, if nothing else. It won't bring back what you lost. Merrick didn't look back. I never lost anything worth keeping. The documents landed on Tessa's attorney's desk with a damning thud, evidence of not just one affair, but several, spanning the entirety of her marriage to Merrick. Email exchanges, hotel receipts, photographs taken by a private investigator Merrick had hired years ago, but never used until now. This changes everything, Raina explained calmly to the ashen-faced lawyer. Your client didn't just commit paternity fraud with one partner. She engaged in a pattern of deliberate deception with multiple men. Where did all this come from? The lawyer asked, thumbing through the file. And why bring it forward now? My client was thorough in building his case. He held these in reserve, hoping they wouldn't be necessary. Hoping? Or waiting for maximum impact? Raina smiled thinly. The timing is irrelevant. The facts are what matter. And the facts show that Tessa Calloway systematically betrayed her marriage vows with multiple partners, including Jason Richards, her former employer, and, we believe, Owen's actual biological father. The lawyer removed her glasses, suddenly looking much older. What does Mr. Calloway want? More money? The satisfaction of further humiliating my client. He wants the truth on record. All of it. Raina closed her briefcase. We'll be filing an amended suit tomorrow morning naming Richards as a defendant. I suggest you advise your client accordingly. The news broke like a thunderclap across their social circle. Prominent realtor accused of multiple affairs, including with client, the local paper's website declared. The story spread quickly through social media, each share adding another layer of speculation and gossip. Merrick watched it unfold from the detached comfort of his office, the city spread out below him like a map of his success. Silas entered without knocking, a habit from their early days that neither had bothered to change. "You made the business journal again," Silas said, tossing the publication onto Merrick's desk. "State commending iron signal for the transit project. Page 4. "I haven't had time to read it," Merrick replied. "Too busy watching the ex-wife's public immolation." Merrick glanced up. "You disapprove?" Silas shrugged his scarred shoulders. "Not my place to approve or disapprove. Just wondering when it ends, when justice is served. Justice or satisfaction." Silas lowered himself into a chair. "Because from where I sit, you've already won. Iron Signal's thriving. Your brother's in prison. Your ex-wife's reputation is in tatters. What more do you need?" "Completion," Merrick said after a moment. "I need to see it through to the end." "And what's the end look like? Tessa homeless? The kid in foster care?" Merrick's expression hardened. "Owen isn't my concern. Never said he was." Silas leaned forward. "But you might want to consider collateral damage. Not for them, for you. Meaning revenge is a fire. Burns everything it touches, including the hand that lit the match." Merrick turned to the window. "You're starting to sound like Raina. Smart woman. Maybe listen to her." After Silas left, Merrick remained at the window, watching the city lights come on as dusk descended. His phone buzzed a news alert. "Jason Richards denies affair. Paternity claim. Of course he would deny it. They all would, until the DNA tests came back." Merrick had already filed for a court order requiring Richards to submit to testing, citing the overwhelming circumstantial evidence. Another was a text from Raina. "Tess has been fired." Agency couldn't weather the scandal. He set the phone down, feeling what? Not satisfaction, exactly. Not regret. Something in between, a hollow completion. Like finishing a task that had consumed him for so long that its absence left a void. The DNA results arrived 2 weeks later, delivered to Raina's office in a sealed envelope. She called Merrick immediately. "It's not Richards," she said without preamble when he answered. Merrick froze. "What?" "The DNA test. It's conclusive. Jason Richards is not Owen's biological father." "That's impossible." "The timeline, the evidence. Science doesn't lie, Merrick. Richards isn't the father. And according to the comparative analysis, neither is Beau." The revelation hit Merrick like a physical blow. "Then who?" "We don't know. But there's more. Tessa's attorney has approached with a settlement offer." "What kind of settlement?" "Full admission of paternity fraud. Complete release of all claims against you. Public apology. In exchange, you drop the remaining civil suits and allow her to keep whatever she can salvage of her life." Merrick considered this. "And Owen?" "No mention of him in the proposal. I think she's finally accepted that you want nothing to do with him." After hanging up, Merrick sat at his desk, the city spread out before him unnoticed. The narrative he'd constructed Tessa and Beau's betrayal resulting in Owen had crumbled. The truth was messier, more complex. She had betrayed him, yes, but with whom? How many men had there been, and did it matter anymore? A strange emptiness settled over him. He'd built his revenge on a specific understanding of the past. With that understanding now uncertain, what was he left with? His phone buzzed again. "Raina, what do you want me to tell her attorney?" Merrick stared at the message for a long moment. "Then, accept the settlement. With one condition. I want the full truth about Owen's parentage. All of it." Her reply came quickly. "Are you sure? Does it still matter?" Did it? Merrick wasn't certain. But some part of him needed to close the circle to understand the full scope of the deception before he could truly move beyond it. "Yes," he texted back. "It matters." The settlement meeting took place in Raina's office, neutral ground, by mutual agreement. Tessa arrived alone, her once perfect appearance now showing signs of strain. Shadows under her eyes, clothes slightly too loose, hair lacking its usual luster. She sat across from Merrick, Raina, and her own attorney, flanking them like seconds in a duel. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Tessa's lawyer began. "My client is prepared to accept all terms of the settlement, including the additional condition." Raina nodded. "Then we can proceed." Papers were exchanged, signatures applied. Through it all, Merrick and Tessa remained silent, the weight of their history pressing down like a physical presence. With the formal business concluded, the attorney stepped out, leaving them alone for the first time in years. "You look well," Tessa said finally, her voice quiet. "You don't," Merrick replied. She laughed humorlessly. "Honesty at last. How refreshing." "You agreed to provide the truth about Owen's father," he reminded her. "That was the condition." Tessa sighed, suddenly looking much older than her years. His name was Daniel Lorenz, a client. His wife was terminally ill, and he was looking for a place where she could spend her final months comfortably. "We connected during a difficult time." "Another married man." "Yes." She met his gaze unflinchingly. "I won't make excuses. I was unhappy, felt trapped in a life I never wanted. That doesn't justify what I did, but it explains it. And Bo was comfortable, familiar. He reminded me of you, but without the what? The judgment, the constant reminder that I was failing to live up to some invisible standard." Merrick's expression hardened. "I never judged you. You didn't have to say it. It was in every look, every sigh when I spent money, every time you compared our life to what you grew up with. I worked myself to exhaustion to give you what you wanted." "No." She shook her head. "You worked yourself to exhaustion to prove something to yourself, to your father, to everyone who ever doubted you. I was just an accessory to that journey." The accusation stung more than Merrick expected. "So you cheated?" "Repeatedly." "Yes. And I lied about Owen. And I let you believe he was yours because I needed him to have a father who would stay." Her voice caught. "Daniel died a year after Owen was born. Car accident." Merrick absorbed this. "Does Bo know? That Owen isn't his either?" "No. I let him believe. What was convenient? What kept him around?" She looked away. "I made so many mistakes, Merrick. Hurt so many people, including Owen, especially Owen." Tears welled in her eyes. "He's the innocent one in all this. And now he's the one paying the highest price." Merrick felt an unexpected twist of something like pity. "What will you do now?" "Start over. Somewhere new. Tell Owen the truth when he's old enough to understand. And Bo, I haven't visited him since the arrest. I doubt I will." They sat in silence for a moment. The wreckage of their shared past spread between them like broken glass. "Why did you do it, Merrick?" Tessa asked suddenly. "The systematic destruction. The years of planning. Was it worth it?" He considered the question. "At the time, yes. Now, I'm not sure revenge ever brings what you think it will." "You haven't forgiven me," she observed. "Or Bo." "No, and I never will." She nodded, accepting this. "I wouldn't expect you to, but for what it's worth, I am sorry. For all of it. It's worth very little at this point." Tessa gathered her purse, preparing to leave. "Owen sent you a letter. Months ago. Did you ever read it?" "No." "He asked why you left. Said he understood if you didn't love his mom anymore, but didn't understand why you stopped loving him." Her voice broke. "He said no matter what, you'd always be his dad in his heart." Merrick's expression remained impassive, though something shifted behind his eyes. "He deserved better than either of us. On that, at least we agree." Tessa rose. "Goodbye, Merrick." He didn't answer, watching her walk away for the final time. That evening, alone in his penthouse, Merrick stood by the fireplace, tumbler of whiskey in hand. On the mantel sat an envelope Owen's letter, retrieved from the drawer where he'd stored it months ago. That he stared at it for a long time, considering. Then, decision made, he tossed it into the flames, watching as the edges blackened and curled. Words he would never read turning to ash. The boy was not his son. Had never been his son. The letter, like the child who wrote it, belonged to a life that no longer existed. Merrick turned away from the fire, from the past, toward the windows and the city beyond. His city now, in many ways. Iron Signal had contracts across the state, was expanding to California and Washington. He had built something lasting from the ashes of betrayal. IT was enough. It had to be. Cameras flashed as Merrick cut the ribbon on the Forge Initiative's new training center, a gleaming addition to Iron Signal's main campus. Behind him stood Silas, Raina, and a dozen teenagers selected for the inaugural mentorship program. Iron Signal began as two men with a vision and a warehouse. Merrick told the assembled crowd of reporters and business leaders. Today, we're giving that same opportunity to young people who might otherwise never get a chance to build something of their own. The Forge initiative would provide training, mentorship, and eventual employment to disadvantaged youth interested in manufacturing and fabrication. It had been Raina's idea originally, though Merrick had embraced it with unexpected enthusiasm. Mr. Calloway, a reporter, called out, "Your ex-wife recently gave an interview claiming the Forge is an attempt to repair your public image after the highly publicized lawsuits." Any comment? Merrick's expression didn't change. The Forge stands on its own merits. My personal history is irrelevant to the work we're doing here. And what about your estranged brother? Will he be involved when he's released from prison? No. Next question. After the press conference, Raina found him reviewing applications in his office. "Handled the vultures well," she commented, closing the door behind her. "Practice," he replied, not looking up. She settled into a chair across from him. Dan Lorenz's son is among the applicants. Owen Reynolds, now using his mother's maiden name. That got his attention. What? He's 15 now. Applied without mentioning the connection. His teacher recommended him, says he has exceptional mechanical aptitude. Merrick set the papers down. "Is this some kind of test, Raina?" "No test. Just an observation. He earned his spot like everyone else. I don't want him here. Your call. But ask yourself why." "You know why." Raina leaned forward. "Because he reminds you of a life you lost? Or because he reminds you of what your revenge cost an innocent?" "Don't psychoanalyze me." "Someone should." She softened slightly. "You've built something amazing, Merrick. Iron Signal. The Forge. A legacy that will outlast whatever happened between you and Tessa and Bo. Your point. My point is, maybe it's time to build something for yourself now. Not just scaffolding around the hole they left." He was silent for a long moment. "He's really qualified? Top of his class. Teacher says he's been rebuilding engines since he was 12. Merrick nodded slowly. "Put him in Vex Group. Different last name, different branch. No special treatment. And if he figures out who you are, he won't. I'll make sure of it." Raina studied him. "You still haven't forgiven any of them?" "No, and I never will." Merrick turned to the window, looking out at the facility he'd built from nothing. "But I don't build for the broken. I build for those ready to rise. What I lost made room for what I earned." As Raina left, Merrick remained at the window, watching the young recruits tour the facility below. Among them, a dark-haired boy moved with particular interest, examining each machine, each process, with careful attention. Not his son. Never his son, but perhaps, in some small way, part of whatever came next. The past was ashes. The future was still being forged.